Last Words of a Railway Man. Poem by Peter Tchaikovsky. Illustrations by Susie Shore. In the valley up the mountain you can find a splintered peak, and in its crooked shadow hear the shades of history speak. Of the crews who built the railway, the men that I once met, and of Jim McCree, now passed away, who I never can forget. When I worked at Lane Track, I'd hear Jim tell his tales about the ghosts there in the valley, the souls who dug the rails, like the Chinese crews who lost their lives when rock slides tore away, who line up still in the midnight chill to claim their danger pay. Jim said spirits ain't just stories that resign to rust and rot. No, ghosts are what we call those tales that refuse to be forgot. See, Jimmy had been laying tracks since the railway'd first begun. He'd seen his friends meet gruesome ends and remembered every one. But the foreman didn't like old Jim spinning stories to the hands. Said it made him question what the company had planned. Made him gripe out the wages, the losses, and the trials, the somber stones and buried bones that marked the deadly miles. But more than that, when I think back, the foreman was afraid to hear about the men he'd killed, the bloody price they paid. So one day soon, on break at noon, he'd said Jim's tales were done. He docked Jim's pay for every day he heard a story spun. The men fell quiet right away, their silence drawn and tight, and that was when we heard the din of a powder charge ignite. A little up the valley, where the roughest rock slides fell, a fuse burned fast and set a blast that opened a roar in hell. We gave no thought to the powder crew, and fled without a doubt, while Jim stayed back to lend a hand if anyone crawled out. Well, once we got our distance, we cowards stopped to stare at the stone and flame that fell like rain as smoke clouds filled the air. "'Twas bad luck," cursed the foreman. "'Twas bloody stinking chance. But bad luck ain't the name for it, if you're asking death to dance." For it wasn't just poor Jimmy who'd looked the reaper in the eye, but the foreman who'd done naught for months as corpses piled high. So the crew began to mutter about those lives the rails had claimed, about the men crossed off the pay list and the few who died unnamed, about the ghosts that Jimmy honored and the stories that he'd tell, until Jimmy was a story they were honoring as well. And the more they talked of Jimmy, the more we thought we saw him walking through the carnage, through the valley's gaping maw, until he stood before us like a wraith of dust and smoke. With gravity, he looked at me, and this is what he spoke. "Until the day that you've atoned for all these lives you wreck, this curse will hang about you like a corpse around your neck. My stories are now yours to tell, yours to bear and build. Far or near, may all souls hear of the men your railway killed." Then all at once he blew away, like a haze of soot and breath, left us standing in the valley, midst the twisted steel and death. And I, the curse-marked foreman, wept upon the scene. At last I knew that he spoke true, heartless had I been. And so I left the valley, the mountain, and the peak. I wander now with dead men's words, so through me they might speak. Of the crews who built the railway, the men that I once met, and of Jim McCree, now passed away, who won't let me forget.